It's been 14 years since Toyota last overhauled the Sequoia, an eternity in the automotive world. But this full-size three-row SUV comes to us all new for 2023. New platform, new hybrid powertrain, and new trim levels inside. What's up, folks? I'm Dave Undercoffler, editor-in-chief of Autolist.com, a sister company to CarGurus. A lot has changed in the world since Toyota last introduced the new Sequoia, so this version has a lot of catching up to do, especially when it comes to rivals like the Ford Expedition, Chevy Tahoe, Nissan Armada, and Jeep Wagoneer. Plus, Toyota is no longer bringing the Land Cruiser to the US anymore, so this also needs to fill in that space. So is it up to the task, or is this one tree that's better left in the forest? Let's go find out. But before we do, like and subscribe to this channel so you can get all of our alerts on future videos. All right, let's take a look at the exterior. Now, this new Sequoia is based on the same platform as Toyota's Tundra full-size truck, so it shares a lot of the exterior cues. So you can see it has this big, bold, muscular presence. We're testing the fully loaded capstone version, that's the luxury trim level. So that gives us LED headlights and fog lights down below. Moving to the side, our capstone model has 22-inch alloy wheels. Other trim levels will get either 18-inch wheels or 20-inch wheels. You've got the capstone badging here and some chrome treatment throughout the side of the vehicle. Plus, this loaded model also has power retractable running boards to help the little ones get in the truck more easily. The wheelbase of this new Sequoia is the same as the previous generation, but the overall length is up 3 inches. Moving to the back, again, you can see the big, bold, sort of muscular presence in the styling back here. These are LED tail lamps. You've got the huge Sequoia badging across the back in case you forget what you're driving. This liftgate does open up like this, but if you want to just get access through here, you have that option as well. Under the hood, all Sequoias get this all-new hybrid powertrain, and it is a monster. It's a 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged V6 and an electric motor that makes 437 horsepower and 583 pound-feet of torque. It's paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. Two-wheel drive is standard, but our loaded model has part-time four-wheel drive with a limited slip differential. So some people are going to like the fact that this hybrid powertrain has more power and torque, but others are going to miss the V8. Where do you guys fall? Let us know in the comments below. On paper, fuel economy goes up. Two-wheel drive models are rated at 21 miles per gallon city, 24 in the highway, and 22 overall. This four-wheel drive version loses 2 miles per gallon for each of those, so it's 19 in the city, 22 on the highway, and 20 overall. But keep in mind, those figures are on paper only. What have we been getting over 300 miles of testing? Well, stay tuned, we're going to tell you. So much like the outside got a redesign, so did the inside. And it too has this sort of big, brash, bold characteristic to it. This is a 14-inch color touchscreen for the infotainment system. This is standard on all models except the base, which is the SR5. That gets an 8-inch screen here, but you can get this screen optional. I love the setup here. This is a system Toyota has been putting in all of its new vehicles, and I really like it. It's very crisp, it's responsive to your touch. It has wireless Apple CarPlay, wireless Android Auto. Another thing that I really like is that there are physical buttons for the climate control. If you've been watching any of my other videos, you know it's so frustrating to me when automakers put everything into the touchscreen. So Toyota did a really nice job. You've got physical buttons for all the climate control. I will say some of these labels are a little hard to read in daylight, but you can infer what each of them does based on the screen above it. You do have a large volume knob there. I like that as well. Also, all Sequoia models have a 12.3-inch configurable display for the driver. That's a nice touch. And our loaded capstone version has a lot of goodies like heated and ventilated seats. You've got this large panoramic roof. I've got a digital camera for the rear view mirror, a heads-up display, open pore wood trim, and these two-tone leather seats. Finally, because Toyota knows that this Sequoia is going to be put into full-time family duty, there are cubbies and cup holders all around this truck. It's really cool. You've got little ones in here. This entire thing opens up. And if you want more access that's easier, that slides out of the way. Cup holders here, more cup holders on the door. So that's really nice, very practical for this SUV. This is a look at the second row. As you can see, there are 2 captain's chairs here. So overall, this is a 7-passenger version of the Sequoia. Lower trims will have a bench seat here, which makes them an 8-passenger. As you can see, I've got plenty of space. You would hope so, right? In a vehicle this big. I've got the driver's seat adjusted to where I would have it. I'm 6'1", so I've got plenty of room for my legs, my knees. Headroom is comfortable, but it does get a little tight thanks to this low roof with the panoramic moonroof. And because this is the capstone version, you have a variety of amenities back here. I've got heated and cooled seats, I've got my own climate control system, and a variety of ways to charge my devices. One thing to note about these captain's chairs is that they don't slide back and forth as they will in some of the competitors to the Sequoia. They do flip and fold out of the way pretty easily, however. Just pull one lever, and then you have access to the rear seats. Plus, because this is the loaded capstone version, I've got a button here that automatically folds the rear seats. Once we're in the third row, I've actually got a fair amount of space. Plenty for my toes and my legs and my knees. Headroom gets a little tight, but you could spend quite a bit of time back here as an adult. That's nice. And because this is the loaded capstone version, there's some other goodies back here. I've got a button that allows me to recline the seat or move it forward. I've got a USB charger down here. And just like the second rows in the doors, I've got a sunshade here in case I want to take a nap. All right, now to the cargo area of the Sequoia, and this is probably my biggest gripe of the vehicle overall. It's the cargo space. There's just not a lot of it given how big this vehicle is overall. Both the Ford Expedition and Chevy Tahoe have an independent rear suspension. Why does that matter? Well, it allows them to more cleanly integrate the seats into the cargo floor for better space. This Sequoia has a more basic solid rear axle, so it really doesn't give you a lot of space. You do have a few options in terms of configurability back here. These seats do slide a little bit fore and aft to give you a little bit more space here, and then this floor can be adjusted in terms of its height to bring it level with these seats when they're folded. But still, overall, you don't have nearly the cargo space that you would in some of the rivals in this segment, so it's a bit of a miss for the Sequoia that way. All right, driving impressions. Probably my favorite thing about the Sequoia overall is the powertrain. 437 horsepower, 583 pound-feet of torque. That is a lot. This thing is a monster, and I really like that. Unlike some other turbocharged V6 engines, this one has no turbo lag whatsoever. The minute you get on the throttle, it's responsive. That's great. Probably the highest compliment you can pay a turbo V6 is to say it feels exactly like a V8 with all that rich torque and the sound, and that's exactly what this powertrain does. It sounds like a V8, it acts like a V8. Unfortunately, it also drinks like a V8. Over 300 miles of testing, we've been averaging 15 miles per gallon, and some of that was even on a pretty long road trip. So that's not great, definitely doesn't measure up to the EPA estimates. Meanwhile, the 10-speed automatic transmission is a peach. It stays out of the way, but it's also very responsive when you need it to be. A couple of things that I don't like. The steering, for one, is very light. I have it right now in sport mode, which does dial up the feeling and the resistance a little bit, but in the default normal setting, you really don't get much feedback from the steering at all. And that's a bit of a problem in a vehicle that's this big. I also don't love the ride quality. Ours has the optional air suspension, and it's just, there's too much chatter. Again, part of that is also because we have the larger wheels, the 22-inch alloy wheels. So be sure you test drive the Sequoia with a different trim that you're interested in, because it does vary depending on which model you have. There's 18-inch alloy wheels, 20-inch wheels, and then the 22s that are on this truck. One thing about the steering is that this Sequoia has a really tight turning radius, and that's been great. You're gonna find that really handy when you're navigating really tight parking spots or parking garages. Another great thing about this Sequoia's new hybrid powertrain is its towing capacity. It can go up to 9,500 pounds of towing. That's a lot. It's 2,000 pounds plus over the previous generation of Sequoia, so that's great. In terms of visibility, it's good, but not great. This is a full-size SUV, right? You'd think you'd have this commanding view of the road. Unfortunately, the windshield feels like it's a little too low, and then out the back, the glass feels a little too low as well. So you don't have that commanding presence. You'd think this would be like driving a Lighthouse. Not so that's a little frustrating. The Sequoia also has adjustable drive modes. So there's a normal setting, there's a comfort, there's a sport plus, and finally a custom mode that allows you to sort of fine-tune how the vehicle feels. Wind noise and road noise is largely held at bay, and that's really nice. You would kind of hope so, right, on a vehicle this large. The seats are certainly comfortable, but they don't have the bolstering that I would like. They're a little too wide for me, so it'd be nice if they held you a little bit tighter, but that's really nitpicking at this point. In terms of competition, this Toyota goes up against the Ford Expedition, the Chevy Tahoe, the GMC Yukon, the Nissan Armada, and the Jeep Wagoneer. The Chevy is going to have more passenger space in the third row and in the cargo area, but it doesn't have this amazing hybrid powertrain. The Ford is going to stack up really well because it too has a turbocharged V6, although it's not a hybrid, and its cargo area is really nicely managed because it has that independent rear suspension. The Nissan Armada was recently updated, but it's still starting to show its age. It's got a basic V8, so I think I would choose this Sequoia over that model. The Jeep Wagoneer is the new entrant to this segment. It has a nice burly V8, but it gets terrible fuel economy, so there's no turbocharged V6 currently offered. It does also have a lot of space, so that's certainly something to consider. So overall, this Toyota is best for people who want bulletproof reliability, because you always get that from Toyota, from people who want a great powertrain that has a lot of towing capabilities, and for people who don't have a big need for rear cargo space. All right, folks, there you have it, our review of the 2023 Toyota Sequoia. Pros, well, we like the new styling, this hybrid powertrain is incredible to drive, and we really appreciate the tech upgrades inside. Cons, well, the third row space and the cargo space lag behind most of its peers. This hybrid powertrain is certainly thirstier in the real world than it is on paper, and this can get expensive. This is $81,000 as you see it here. So overall, while we appreciate the upgrades Toyota made to this generation of the Sequoia, we don't quite think it can keep up with its American counterparts. And we also don't think it can fill the shoes of the discontinued Land Cruiser. So for reviews or listings of this Sequoia or anything else you're shopping for, be sure to check out CarGurus.com. And if you have a car to sell, check out CarGurus' Instant Max Cash Offer, where you can get top dollar for your trade-in and a truck comes right to you. And before you go, like and subscribe to this channel so you can get alerts on all of our future updates. We'll see you out there.